All right, my friends. So earlier today, I posted a video on my concern about the S&P 500 being run essentially by 5 major stocks. That is a big concern to me. And I said, you got to avoid what happened in 2000s. Now, look, if you're not anywhere near retirement, it doesn't matter. You're going to get what you're going to get. Just freaking go crazy. If you're close to retirement, I'd say within 5 years or so, I think you need to take some risk off the table. And I think that doesn't mean you go to bonds. It just means you got to say, look, I can't have 5 stocks determining my fate. Now, you might say, but Josh, just yesterday, a guy asked you about rebalancing. He said he had, 45, 10 portfolio in the C, the S fund, and then the I fund, and it was like 49, 41 or something like that. And you said, it shouldn't rebalance. Why are you such a hypocrite? Because you just told us what not to, don't rebalance except once or twice a year, blah, blah, blah. All right, so here's my issue. And I had another guy saying I was basically bordering on market timing when I talk about Roth conversions. Well, I'm going to be like the Supreme Court, who recognizes the First Amendment is not a suicide pact, if that makes sense. I mean, just because I say ultimately I don't want you checking your portfolio every day and looking if you're like 1% above over here or 2% above over there or something like that and rebalancing, or which is there is there timing, market timing in terms of, oh man, I think I can do better over here than over there. No, that's not what I'm trying to do. But what I am trying to do is say, look, when the situation is obvious, and obvious is for everyone's own perspective. You can't just, it's not a suicide pact to follow, I will never market time. And I don't even think this is market time. I'm sitting there thinking, how much risk am I taking in the S&P 500 right now relative to the reward I'm getting? I'm up 55% since March 23rd when I just got off the bottom. I was on a standing 8 count. I was on the ropes, man. I mean, I was the ref was going, 7, 8, and he's looking at me, feeling my gloves, and he could see that I still kind of like dazed, but he said, all right, you can get back in the ring. And then I came back in like Troy Dorsey. Remember Troy Dorsey, the boxer? Oh, man. Got fun to watch. And I just started pounding and busting heads. The problem is that I had one maneuver, which was just shots to the body, shots to the body, shots to the body. And a defensive boxer who recognized that Troy Dorsey got his second win back, he could then say, okay, what do I do to avoid the shots to the body? So now Troy Dorsey has got the other guy on the ropes, and he's just banging away. And the other guy might even be playing some rope-a-dope like Muhammad Ali. But then the bell sounds, and that's where we are now. So I was on a standing 8 count. I got Troy Dorsey on my opponent. I came back, and now that guy's on the ropes. The bell rings, and now we're starting from scratch again. All right. So the concern is what put me into the win column. How did I end up getting the win column back? I was freaking down and out, and now I got the W back. How? Well, basically 5 stocks, and I say that it's not just 5 stocks, I grant you, but for the S&P 500, 5 stocks are now significantly representative of the entirety of that portfolio. And they're all in one field, tech, man. And I remember like it was yesterday in the 2000s. Everyone, a lot of new people on YouTube and whatnot, they think 2008. 2008 wasn't the freaking bear. Is 2001 and 2. The saving grace for 2001 and 2 is that we did not get massive amounts of foreclosures. Bonds still did good, and layoffs. But a lot of people retired in 2000, thinking they had made their nut essentially, and now they could go into the freaking sunset and just live off that $1 million nut they had built and just live comfortably. And they thought they could continue to get 20-25% rates of return. And then they woke up, 3 years later into March of 2003. Oh, look at that beautiful dog. Oh, my goodness. And they were down, 50%. And if they're just, like I said today, in the U.S. Growth Fund, they were down 65%. That's not even including distributions coming from the portfolio or the taxes they had to pay. Never mind, heaven forbid, their investment management fees. And I remember it was yesterday. I do. I remember people who could not retire, who had to go back to work. And, yeah, I get 2008 it's horrible. It was horrible. But it's horrible across the board, man. And it sucked because if you had a house You could have been foreclosed. I get that. Two completely different scenarios. But 2008 was a hell of a lot quicker than 2000 was for retirees, if that makes sense. And don't forget, government bonds did just fine in 2008. So if you had some government bonds on the side, you were okay. Now, I think a lot of people would have remembered what happened in 2001 and 2. So I think the bulk of retirees, the 2001 and 2 was actually much more painful than 2008 was. I truly believe that, because it was only 7 years previous when the markets got crunched, and a lot of people still didn't trust the markets at all, the way they did. Well, they probably do right now, frankly, or certainly the way they did in 1999. 2008 was bad. 2001 and 2 for retirees was so unpredictable, so unseen. We had 18 years of just insane growth, man. I mean, I don't think people recognize the previous 2 decades, from Reagan through Clinton. We had a peace dividend when the commies fell. I mean, we were arguing about Clinton getting jiggy with it with old Monica there, which is still, I don't know why people thought that was acceptable, or they said, it was still a freaking scumbag. But at the end of the day, that's what we were concerned with. In the 80s, we were concerned with the commies wiping us out. You see what I'm saying? And so we got that. We beat that. We had a peace dividend. We smoked Saddam Hussein. Rightly or wrongly, we didn't take him out in the 1990. But the 1990s was just, it was a revolution of peace, of just insane consumption, of the tech revolution it was just insane. And it's just like the good times are here and will never go away. And I don't think people remember how good we had it. And then to wake up one day in March of 2003 and have it all taken away, going into Iraq war, it changed everything. And so the level of just utmost confidence from 1999 to the end of 2003 was just a complete change. It was just a complete change. Whereas in 2008, we were still feeling, from Iraq, from Afghanistan. We still felt, hell, from Katrina. It wasn't just Monica with Bill in the freaking Oval Office. Anyway, I think people underestimate the devastation of the initial part of this century. It's horrific. So we go back to where we are today, and we say, the way I say is like, look, it's not a suicide pact, man. You don't sit there and say, I will never sell, I will never do anything. You say, what's the risk I'm taking for the reward I've received? And I think at some point you gotta say, Amazon with a 131 PE ratio that's doubled in the last 4 months, it's too much, man. And at some point you just gotta take some risk off the table. Even if I just said yesterday, don't rebalance off, and I'm talking about if there's something that's inherently obvious that's dangerous to your well-being, then again, that doesn't mean you sell everything. It just means you diversify more, be it to a value stock fund, be it to a small cap stock fund, be it to an equal-weighted index. But if you have everything in the S&P 500 right now, and that's all you have, and you're needing that portfolio to be there for freaking 20 years of retirement, and you don't have a pension, and I think you've got to rebalance to some more. I think you just got to take some risk off the table. It's Mr. Miyagi. Risk on, risk off. Risk on, risk off. Did he say risk or wipe on? I can't remember. But you got to take some risk off the table, in my opinion. Now, you don't have to, but I don't think I'm being hypocritical at all. I think I'm saying, look, I see what happened. I remember what happened in the aughts. That sucked. And the only people who think it's insane to quote market time are people who have just bought that, like they bought in the climate change thing, hook, line, and sinker. I will never market time because John Bogle says don't market time. This isn't market timing. This is seeing PE ratios that are through the roof for some of these stocks, seeing some of these stocks have run so far so quickly that how much further can they go? And so let's just say I say I'm going to cut my losses a little bit because you have no losses anymore. You've actually still got gains. And I'm going to diversify to other things that for the last 10 years have been underwhelming. That's not a bad strategy. Remember, when you're retired, it's return of principal, not return on principal. We got to make sure we don't run out of money. We've got to make sure we don't get hit like we did in 2001 and 2. And if you only had the S&P 500, you were down 9, 12, 22% respectively. If you had large cap growth, like I showed you earlier today, U.S. Growth Fund, you lost 65% of your portfolio those 3 years. 65%, my friends. Can't have that happen. Will that happen with the S&P 500? I doubt it. But 9, 12, and 22 was devastating. Don't let that happen. Will it happen again? I got no idea. But I see the two things. One has gone friggin' double to triple the rate of the other, which is the large cap, the growth side of the S&P 500 has tripled that of the value side. And I say it's probably a good idea to take some gains off the table, some risk off the table, and move it more to value. So I'm not stuck with these 5 stocks running my retirement portfolio. That's just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your comments. We'll see you.